title, The Bloodiest Knight Battles in Medieval History. Not all battles were glorious. Some were massacres. Across the misty plains of medieval Europe, armored knights rode under fluttering banners, believing in chivalry and honor. But history tells a far darker story. Not all battles were glorious tournaments of skill. Some became blood-drenched massacres where iron clashed against flesh, where discipline crushed valor, and where medieval warfare revealed its most brutal face. In this documentary countdown, we journey into the deadliest knight-dominated battles ever fought, from the sodden fields of Agincourt to the bloody slopes of Bannockburn. This is not a tale of glory. It is a chronicle of slaughter. In the High Middle Ages, Europe's great kingdoms, England, France, Scotland, and beyond, were locked in conflicts over thrones, land, and dynastic claims. The rise of heavily armored knights reshaped war, turning once chaotic skirmishes into disciplined charges of steel. Yet new tactics, longbows, and terrain could turn even the mightiest knightly host into a graveyard of ambition. Understanding these battles requires stepping into an age when the knight was both the symbol of war and its prime casualty. October 14th, 1066, Senlac Hill, England. Saxon and Norman forces collided in one of the pivotal moments in European history. Harold Godwinson's English infantry formed an unbreakable shield wall atop the hill, their axes ready. Below, Duke William of Normandy's cavalry, clad in chainmail, raised lances. The Normans charged again and again, but the English held until a feigned retreat lured the Saxons down, breaking their line. Arrows darkened the sky. Harold fell, struck in the eye, and the English resistance collapsed. This battle marked the end of Anglo-Saxon rule and the rise of Norman power, a template for combined arms that future knights would follow. As the bodies cooled under the autumn sun, the English nobility lay slain. Hastings was not just a battle, but a cultural earthquake, introducing Norman feudalism and mounted knight warfare to England. Castles would rise, old traditions would die, and the knight's age would deepen its grip on Europe. June 23rd to 24th, 1314. The rolling fields near Stirling saw Scotland's fight for freedom reach its fiercest pitch. King Robert the Bruce faced the massive English army of Edward II. Outnumbered, the Scots formed tight schiltrons, hedgehog formations of spears, bracing against England's knightly cavalry. As English horses crashed into spear walls, armored knights were toppled into mud and trampled by their own men. After 2 days of relentless fighting, English morale shattered. Bannockburn secured Scottish independence for a generation and proved that disciplined infantry could humble the armored knight. Bannockburn was more than a victory. It was a lesson. It demonstrated the vulnerability of heavy cavalry to well-organized foot soldiers. For centuries, the knight had been Europe's undisputed king of battle. Bannockburn cracked that image, and from those cracks would pour innovation. August 26th, 1346, Northern France. The English army of Edward III, entrenched on a hill, their ranks lined with thousands of Welsh longbowmen. Across the field, the French knights, glittering in steel and heraldic surcoats, thundered forward. Arrow storms tore into them, puncturing armor, killing horses, and throwing the charges into chaos. Wave after wave of French chivalry broke against the deadly rain. Crécy ushered in the age of missile dominance and revealed that the mounted knight, once supreme, could be cut down en masse from afar. Thousands of French nobles perished at Crécy. Europe watched as a single-day slaughter upended centuries of military tradition. The chivalric ideal was dead. Strategy and ranged firepower now ruled the field. Ten years after Crécy, the Hundred Years' War saw another devastating English victory. On September 19, 1356, near Poitiers, the Black Prince, Edward of Woodstock, commanded a smaller Anglo-Gascon force. French knights under King John II charged repeatedly into a maze of hedges and archers. The English counterattacked, surrounding and capturing the king himself. Poitiers proved again that valor alone could not defeat disciplined tactics and the longbow's reach. With their king captured, France was thrown into political chaos. Poitiers struck at the heart of French pride and weakened the knightly class, ushering in ransom economies and negotiations rather than endless chivalric combat. October 25th, 1415. St. Crispin's Day. King Henry VI's exhausted English army faced a vastly superior French force on a narrow, muddy field. The English dug in, their archers planting stakes. French knights, slowed by heavy armor and churning mud, became easy prey for arrows. The crush of men and horses turned the battlefield into a suffocating slaughter pit. When it was over, thousands of French nobles lay dead, their power broken and Henry's legend secured. Agincourt wasn't just another battle. It was the death knell of medieval knight supremacy and the birth of modern combined arms warfare. Armor no longer guaranteed survival. Discipline, terrain and firepower did before Agincourt. Another great knightly host met disaster. On September 25, 1396, European crusaders, French, Hungarian, Burgundian knights, marched to Nicopolis against the Ottomans. Overconfident and poorly coordinated, the knights charged uphill without support. Ottoman archers and disciplined infantry decimated them. Thousands were slaughtered or taken captive. Nicopolis shattered the last great medieval crusade and showed that the age of the mounted crusading knight was ending. Survivors wrote of heads on stakes and rivers running red. The battle's failure echoed across Christendom, signaling that knighthood alone could no longer defeat disciplined Eastern armies. July 15, 1410. The fields of Grunwald. The Teutonic Order, Europe's most feared knightly order, faced the combined forces of Poland and Lithuania. Under King Władysław Jagiełło, the Allied army enveloped the Teutonic lines. Steel met steel as tens of thousands clashed. The once invincible Teutonic knights were overwhelmed and annihilated. Grunwald marked the decline of the last great crusading order and a decisive shift of power eastward. The shattered Teutonic order retreated to its castles, never regaining its former glory. Grunwald became a symbol of national pride for Poland and Lithuania, and a warning to knightly orders everywhere. The age of armored supremacy was dying. By the 15th century, the knight, once Europe's ultimate weapon, had been eclipsed by tactics, infantry formations, longbows, crossbows, and gunpowder artillery. Heavy armor slowed mobility, while costs soared. Warfare became the domain of professional armies, mercenaries, and early firearms, not loaded cavalry charges. To understand these battles, visualize them not as isolated events, but as tectonic shifts in military history. Maps reveal lines of advance, choke points, ambushes, and the deadly interplay of terrain and tactics. Each battle's landscape shaped its slaughter. Behind every battle statistic lay shattered families, burned villages, and uprooted societies. Knights might be the centerpieces of chronicles, but it was peasants, foot soldiers, and townsfolk who paid the deepest price. The blood of the medieval battlefield stained all classes alike. The myth of the noble knight obscures a grim reality. Across Hastings, Bannockburn, Crécy, Poitiers, Agincourt, Nicopolis, and Grunwald, battlefields became graveyards of ambition. These were not tournaments, but cataclysms that forged nations, shattered empires, and birthed the modern age of war. As you watch these scenes unfold, remember, the clang of steel is not the sound of honor. It is the echo of history's bloodiest lessons.